I call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's July 16, 2022 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Select Board and Finance Committee will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public and committee members may attend the meeting in person, or for those who wish to do so remotely. For those who are not in person, every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of a public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body, and may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the Berkshire Edge and the town of Great Barrington. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items listed may be brought up for discussion to extent permitted by law. So let's start with a roll call. We'll start with the Select Board. Garfield Reed. Garfield, I can see you.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Eric Gabriel.
Here.
Ed Abrams.
Here.
Lee Davis.
Here.
And Steve Bannon present. Bill, Finance Committee, please.
Finance Committee, Ann O'Dwyer,
Here.
Milena,
Here.
Madonna, are you there?
Here.
Okay.
Town Hall.
Okay, great. And Richard,
Here.
and I'm Philip Orenstein, I'm here.
Okay, so tonight's meeting is to clean up a little bit of housekeeping of items that the administration is bringing back to us in the form of reductions, and then any other questions we may have. So Mark, do you want to share your screen? You and Ally and Chris, go ahead.
Sure. So thank you, everyone. So I just want to recap, I guess, before we get started here. At our last meeting, for anyone tuning in that didn't attend, we were tasked, staff was, with returning with some reductions in the fiscal 24 proposed budget in the $150,000 to $200,000 range. So we're back this evening with a proposal that reduces the budget by $167,224. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and we'll walk through those. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so in order to achieve that goal, we eliminated two of the new proposed positions, the IT director and the assistant public works director position, and 8 other lines, as you can see here, were impacted. So here's a detailed list. I guess I'll just leave it up there and let you ask questions if you have any questions on these reductions. And then we'll walk through the impacts of the reductions.
And Mark, are you showing the whole page? Oh, you want to just go through the numbers and then the impact later?
Yeah, I'll scroll down and cover the impacts in just a minute. I just wanted everyone to have a chance to look at the proposed budget changes that we're presenting. And as you can see, there are a few positive numbers on here, like the IT coordinator stipend, the human resources manager position, and the allocation from wastewater. And just to touch on those quickly, the IT coordinator position needed to be restored because we are proposing eliminating the IT director this year. The human resources manager line was increased to accommodate for the additional 4 hours that we discussed at the last meeting. And then the allocation from wastewater was increased by 6821 as a result of some offsets from staffing that was being proposed and hitting that allocation. So.
And Mark, I see that you have
Also decrease the health and life insurance line. Is this related to the hires?
It is.
It
So
is, okay.
Yeah, we accounted for the 2 new hires insurance in our insurance lines.
In your budget,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. So when we eliminated those 2 positions in the proposal, we backed out the insurance.
Okay,
well.
thank you.
So Mark,
Mhm.
can you hear me?
Mhm.
All right, the lines in red are the jobs that are completely gone, or that's just taken from that amount of what the job might pay?
So all the lines shown in red here are reductions from the original proposal. So, for example, some of these are salaries. So if you look at the first one you're going to see is the Director of IT Services, which is 4 lines down.
Mm-hmm.
That 3750 is reflects the salary reduction. And if you go down to the health and life insurance line, that's the associated benefits package for that position.
Thank
And
you.
then moving on down to the assistant DPW superintendent, there's a $20,500 reduction for the salary, and then again another $12,500 for health and life insurance.
So Mark, just to be clear, you're not eliminating these, you're just reducing the salary offer, is that what I'm hearing? Or you're totally eliminating the position?
We're eliminating those 2 positions from the proposal, and it's
I just thought they were getting, oh, I see.
yeah, it was a difficult decision, but in order to reach that $150,000 to $200,000 range, there wasn't really any way to do it without eliminating some of these new positions. So I guess just to explain why we chose to hold off on those 2 positions rather than some of the others, I guess I would just point out that my priority for this year, first and foremost, is public safety. So the patrol officer and firefighter position are being proposed still in the budget, and then the finance position was closely followed as a priority because we have an upcoming upgrade to our Munis system this year, and I think that's going to take a lot of time and attention from our finance staff. So,
Mark, can you just speak on the labor operator, what that reduction is?
That's for you.
Yeah, the labor operator line, when we originally presented the budget to you, and this is a result of the transition in that office. When we originally presented that budget to you, that salary was in 2 different lines. It was in the labor line, and it was also in a new line for a standalone line for the landscaper. So we just backed out one of them out of the laborers and operators. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, thank you.
Can I just follow up on that? So at the end of the day, is the new landscaper position that was budgeted last year, is that we're still gonna have that position, or is?
Yeah, it was an oversight on my part. Unfortunately, what happened was that the 23,500 was half a year's salary that was in last year's budget, and we accidentally carried it over this year. And then when we budgeted the landscaper position as a new line, we were basically double budgeting for the same position. So
that position still exists.
it does exist, yes.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, Mark.
Mhm.
The 167,224, where is that being directed?
So that's the total amount of reductions that we're proposing. So you asked as a board, or as boards, us to come back to you with a proposal of reductions in the $150,000 to $200,000 range. And this is what we've come up with as the best way to get and meet that goal.
Mhm. But where's that money going to go, since it's been saved, if you will, or reduced? So it's reduced and not necessarily going anywhere, right? So
No,
maybe
the next part of this is the impact summary. But
Yeah, I saw that.
in a nutshell, it reduces it reduces the amount the taxpayer has to pay ultimately.
Right,
Yeah.
the overall
I was
increase.
ahead of myself. Yep.
Yep, so why don't I just scroll
Uh,
down a little bit here? Hopefully you can still see both.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
And I guess, I certainly understand, and Ellie, I think you do great work and I want to support you in doing that, but I keep hearing that the reason for the new assistant in the finance office is because this coming year is going to be particularly busy. And it just seems to me, is it wise to make a full-time permanent position for a one-year project? I guess that's what I'm struggling with. I keep hearing that the reason is that we have this muni upgrade coming up, but is that going to be something that will be more work forever or just for the coming year?
So I believe that it'll be more work. It's not just the Munis upgrade that's going to cause more work to this department, but also the number of warrants that we're issuing. As you know, we're growing as a town and we have much more vendors and much more invoices that are needing to be paid. So the activity has picked up even just in the time that I've been there. So the trajectory it's going on is that we really do need a full-time person in there. There already was.
Right. This is increasing from a 1/4 time to a full-time, not from zero.
It's increasing a quarter of the accounts payable and a quarter of the, I'm sorry, let me get my little.
Oh, I didn't.
It was a quarter of the accounts payable clerk and a quarter of the accountant position, assistant accountant position before. So really, we're only increasing it by half and increasing the duties a little bit. So they're increasing the title.
That makes more sense to me. Thank you.
Ellie, if I can just add a few questions to that. So you had part-time people before,
Yes,
and then you are adding half plus benefits, and you're going to have a full-time person.
correct. It'll be
forward. Yeah.
of two different people that are quarter time.
Right, but you are replacing them with a one full-time person, correct?
That's right. And I guess I would
Yeah,
also just
okay,
add
yeah.
that the accountant's office is one of the, maybe it is the only remaining office that's a one-person office at this point. So we have absolutely no coverage in that office.
Right, and you have no backup either, right?
Correct,
Yeah,
right.
so, yeah.
And,
No,
and
yeah.
Mark, just to, are you done now?
I'm all set. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify, the assistant, the shared DPW assistant superintendent, that was initially budgeted as a mid-year hire.
Mhm.
Is that correct? So you're essentially, I certainly buy into the need for that person. Joe made that pretty clear. Is that something you're budgeting or you're anticipating including in at the beginning of the following year's budget?
Yeah, I fully anticipate when we draft the fiscal 25 budget that you'll see a full-time IT director and assistant DPW superintendent in there. I strongly believe in and support those two positions. But again, the only way we were able to accomplish the goal of $150,000 to $200,000 in cuts was to eliminate some positions. So.
And Mark, I just also want to reiterate it. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I think I do that. Our goal wasn't to say no new hires this year, is just to sort of bring it down from 5. So, right.
What you did.
Right, exactly. But I mean, I think it would make, I think we would expect that you're going to be requesting these in next year's budget. Yes.
Yeah, and we have another slide here that we'll get to in just a minute where we're going to circle back to your request for detailed information about the costs of these positions in the following fiscal.
Okay, I mean, you approached this in a very thoughtful way, and I appreciate it. An observation, which is separate from our decision tonight or next week, is you're projecting new positions to come on for fiscal 25 for very legitimate needs. At the same time, it seems pretty clear that our cannabis income for that year is going to be down significantly. So, it just, my numbers, using round numbers, that will probably have a reduction of $500,000 or $600,000 in cannabis.
Phil, we're not here to discuss FY 25. We
I
barely.
understand. I'm expressing my personal view that we're sort of, a couple of things are going to be sort of moving in different directions next year. So.
No, and I would agree with you, and I would say Mark can propose this. It doesn't mean that whatever board is here, whatever it constitutes, the finance committee and select board are going to accept it, depending, and Mark may change his mind looking at revenue. If revenue takes a hit, he has the ability to change his mind before he presents it to us.
No, I agree.
So I'm just gonna scroll down here to the impact summary. Can you see everything right now on your screen?
There are 5 lines. Is that everything?
Yeah. So let me start there. So the bullet number 1 here, $325,000 in special articles was applied to free cash, or that was in the first version of our budget applied to free cash. Was hitting free cash, is now applied to free cash. So we're reducing the tax levy by an additional $325,000. This, along with the $167,000 in reductions, resulted in a town ops increase of 4.9%, which is down from the original budget, down from 6.1%. Moving along to the enterprise line here, that was also reduced as a result of the $167,000 to 3.7%, and that's down from 4.0% in our original proposal. When you add these two together, again, the $167,000 plus the additional $325,000 in free cash to offset the tax levy, what you end up seeing is that our proposed tax rate is reduced from $14.99 down to $14.55.
It's not bad.
I also want to just address that last bullet, response to community impact funding, $25,000 for the co-responder position. And that's something we talked about at our last meeting. I did have an opportunity late yesterday to chat with David Dineski, our town council, and his advice was to do some research and find out what percentage of our co-responder calls were as a result of some kind of substance abuse. And we don't have that information. I spoke to the chief today. He said perhaps our co-responder has that information, but she no longer works for the town. So my suggestion to you would be to just keep the $5,000 that's already in the operating budget there, and moving forward, if and when we do hire a co-responder, whether that's a shared position or some other program, we start to track that in the coming fiscal year. We just don't have enough information available to us for our attorney to feel comfortable with that decision at this point.
So Mark, I find it a bit surprising, frankly, that there are no records of this type of an interaction. There must be records. Maybe they are not in a format, that we would need in terms of putting those different incidents into certain categories. But there must be a record about. I would hope there would be a record, because I cannot see how a service like that would be operating without any records.
There's a record of calls. It's just
right.
She wasn't at that time being mindful of which calls.
Right, someone would have to go through that and just kind of put it into a bucket. And I don't know how many calls are we talking about here. Are there hundreds? Are they tens? Or what are they?
I don't know, to be honest.
I don't know.
I don't know if the chief's on the line. And
I guess from what little I know, it's also complicated. People have there's mental health and addiction, and then there's mental health with secondary addiction. So I do think.
But we would be just looking for calls where there was some kind of a substance abuse, regardless what else was happening there. You know what I mean? You you could come up with some ways of putting it into those categories.
Yeah, I
And then
think
have someone review those.
now that,
Yeah, don't forget also, this person worked for the Breen Center, correct, Mark?
That's correct. They did work for the Breen Center.
And there is some form of privacy.
No,
that-
privacy definitely is an issue. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so
you would
that
have-
may have been why
yeah.
that was never shared directly with the police and they don't have those records.
And
That
we
would
know-
make sense to me.
we
Right.
know a lot more now about how we can utilize these funds based on David's
Right.
summary. So, you know, we can start to think about in the coming fiscal year, how we can track these
How to track it.
calls.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And the privacy issue will have to be definitely observed.
Yeah.
That's very important. Yeah.
So can I just follow up on that question so I understand completely, Mark? At the end of the day, are we funding that position, whether it's out of the impact fund or regular budget with 25,000 or no?
So let me answer that. So in the budget is 5,000. We had generously decided to raise it to 25 using the impact funds.
Okay.
Now, we could tonight, which, it's our right, both finance committee and select board, to out of the general fund, raise it to 25 from 5. That would, affect what we had asked Mark to do, to reduce between 150 and 200, but we definitely have a right to do that.
Mhm. I mean, I just feel with the way everything's working, and I do really appreciate all the work that Mark and Ally did, but that position right there is really important to me. And I think for this town as well. So.
can I guess I also remind everyone, I mean, we make recommendations, so we can put this forward, this raising it to 25,000 in the general fund. And then maybe we'll know by the time of the town meeting whether or not we can use the monies.
No, that data is just not available. It's
Oh,
So we
this year.
don't think it's
Can
available.
I ask a
So,
separate,
so let me just say one thing, Phil, before you go ahead. I'll play devil's advocate. The chief asked for 5,000. Mark recommended 5,000. We asked the staff to reduce between 150 and 200. And now we're adding 20,000, which it amounts to, and I'm not saying I would vote against it. But it seems a little odd that we do that. I'm sure that the chief will accept the 25 graciously. But he didn't request it. He was satisfied with the 5. So just have that in mind. Go ahead, Phil.
no, I take your point, but just to cut it a little finer, Mark, is it possible for the town to allocate the 25 out of our budget and then basically keep records as to the reasons for each co-response? And then when we get to the end of the year, basically do a calculation and
The transfer.
say what percentage of those calls were substance related, and then seek reimbursement for that amount retroactively from the community impact fund.
That's a very good solution. Yeah.
I haven't had any time to think about this, so.
No, that's fair. I hear you.
But I would say that it's a little risky if we commit $25,000 to this position, and let's just say only 10% of the calls are related to some kind of substance abuse. Then
Sure.
not sure
Yeah,
how
understood.
we walk that back, I suppose.
And can I just say, I'm looking at the police department budget and the chief had requested 12,000.
He accepted 5 though, and he didn't seem to argue with it. You're right. And I'm not for one to put words in his mouth, but I've never seen a department head say, no, I don't want more money. Of course they do. There's always good use to it.
What if we just do the 5,000 and keep track, and then we have a basis for next year?
I think there's Mark has a few more things to show, but I think there's 2 things here. One is that we vote to change or accept the 167, 224. And then the other part of this is to decide what we're doing with the 5 versus 25. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, two questions. One, Mark, is the community impact funds, Any substance use, or does it have to be marijuana related?
Well, I did ask how specific we need to get, and I think the advice was that substance abuse in general was probably sufficient, so.
Okay. And then I've forgotten how to do the math on this. 167, 224. What does that mean in dollars to the median taxpayer? There's a formula which I don't remember. Is that something any of you know?
In impacts to the tax.
Yeah, how many dollars are we saving the median priced homeowner?
Ally, do you have any idea?
I just wanted to say one thing about the responder. If you, from a finance position, if you add the 20,000 now to the budget, I believe you would have to call a special meeting in order to vote money out of that free cash to basically reimburse us before the year closes.
Unless we put an extra 15 into community impact fund, or an extra 20. Right, so that you'd have the committee not spend it.
Yeah, I don't know if we would have to ask David on that one, because that's committing it for something that we legally, he's saying we can't commit it to. I'm not saying we can't, but that's.
No, I'm suggesting raise the amount that we're allocating to community impact funds from, I think it was 515. If we add it to that number and then tell the committee and Mark not to allocate it, it's still sitting in the community impact fund that's been approved by town meeting. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Rich, go ahead.
I would suggest that the impact of this particular co-responder is much greater than just marijuana or substance abuse. Policing throughout the country has always seen that these kinds of outside additions to the police department have a great impact on the community. Even the police, the head of the police department was saying that there was a hard thing to buy into such a position, but all the officers, everyone in the department noted how much that added to the value of responding to certain kinds of things. And I would suggest that we consider thinking of the chief of police's original proposal of 12,000. The reason he proposed that was because he had worked with other communities to have their buy-in. So he knew there was buy-in from others to create a position which was actually something that they could possibly fill. If we make it too small, we can't fill it. If we make it too big, it's unnecessary if there's buy-in from the other departments. So I would suggest that people consider maybe raising to the original 12,000 figure from 5,000 that was originally suggested, and perhaps this position could do its service again.
Is that a motion? Sounded like one.
Well, I wanted people to think about it, but I am not against making a motion for that. I move that we budget 12,000 as originally requested by the chief of police for the co-responder position.
A second.
Yeah, it has to be finance committee.
Oh, fine.
Phil, I think Phil seconded it. Phil?
Yeah, I did.
It's your group, so you can have
So
discussion.
any further discussion on that motion?
Can I just clarify one question? So the comment was made that the chief was made no pushback when it was reduced from 12 to 5. That wasn't my sense when we talked to the chief.
Well, I think that already had occurred between him and Mark.
Right. I guess I'm wondering if Mark could speak to his conversation with the chief when he reduced it from 12 to 5.
I think the chief would love to see it restored to 12. Again, it was a difficult decision to make cuts in the original round, and that was at the time I made that cut, it was unclear whether the program would even happen this year. It sounds like it's moving in a positive direction now.
Okay.
So I would recommend restoring that to his original request. I would support that.
That's all I needed to know.
Okay, any further discussion then on the finance committee side? Seeing none, roll call vote, Richard,
I,
Milena,
Aye.
Madonna,
I,
Ann,
Aye.
and I'm I as well.
Do I have a motion from the
Same
select board?
motion, yeah, same motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion from Ed, a second from Lee. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Garfield,
Aye.
Eric. Aye. Ed,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and I, it's unanimous. So while we're on a slight roll here, what about the 167,224? Do I have a motion from anyone in the select board to approve those reductions?
I didn't get an answer. I don't know if it's a number that Ali doesn't know how to do quickly.
Ed, I just did it, and
Okay.
it's the difference will be under the new numbers. Basically, the medium tax bill will go up $191 versus
Right.
last year.
How much does the one, what was it before?
Sorry,
much-
it's
Oh, wait a minute.
Before it was 289 in the original budget.
Right, and give me the new number.
$191.81.
So it's almost $100 they're saved?
That may be,
That doesn't seem
I
right.
should let Ally respond to this, but that may be also impacted by the $325,000 additional.
Yeah, there's almost $500,000 there cut. I'm not sure if the number is correct or not. Ally, are you there?
Yeah, I was just mentioning that Mark and I had already calculated that, and it's on the next slide.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me move down to that next slide.
Good
So
idea.
can I just ask, can you remind me where the 325 came out of the free cash? I definitely have the 176.5 out of the special article number 5, the OPEB trust. Where's the other coming from?
The 150 for Housatonic water relief.
So has that, we have confirmed, or we feel pretty confident that that's gonna, that we can, that's gonna come out of the funding from the state?
I'm feeling much more confident now, after hearing from Smitty Pignatelli's office that that language had been amended and sent to the Senate. So
But can I just ask, if for some horrendous reason, the 150 does not come back, that the Senate does not approve, does that mean there's no money to help people with Housatonic?
it means there's $100,000 instead of 250.
And Mark, could we amend the budget on the town meeting floor?
Trying to remember if there's a special article that could be amended. Let me look.
I think we're taking the special article out, but I wonder if we could put it in, for instance, add it to grant and aid or something on the town meeting floor.
I mean, I thought we had decided to keep it in and remove it and pass over it if need be. Wasn't that the plan?
Well, we did talk about that, but when I was looking back on my notes, I remember confirming at one point near the end of the meeting that you wanted us to come back with those 2 articles removed and $150,000 to $200,000 in cuts. So maybe I just misunderstood the request, but
No, that was the request. That's.
Well, I
what
think we were
Yeah.
also just
Yeah.
hoping for greater clarity out of Boston in the intervening period.
oh, gotcha. Okay.
That may or may not have occurred.
So if the boards would like, we can certainly bring that $150,000 special article back into the mix.
I'm just nervous taking it out. And I mean, I agree with you that I think it's I mean, it would seem unduly unkind of the state Senate not to approve it, but it just makes me nervous to take it out because I think putting it in at the town meeting is, so we could do that. We could put it back in at the town meeting, even if it's no longer listed as a special article.
Yeah, wouldn't that be the best outcome?
Yeah, we're not going to be able to add warrant articles, and
No, you would have to do it as part of the budget. And your point is well taken, and it has the same effect, as long as we get the money before the town meeting from
Right, exactly.
and then we take it out. It's good, you're right, it's gonna have the same effect.
Yeah.
Rich, go ahead.
My feeling is that this is such a hot button issue in the town. I would hate to give the sense that we were removing something that could, we, like what we're doing now by passing it over, if we get the other money, is we're assuring the Housatonic water people that we are backing them. I'm having a feeling from Mark's discussion that the Senate is going to pass it, but I wish I trusted totally, and I'd like to see that there as a sense of good faith for Housatonic, and then we can remove it. Would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anyone object to that, so.
Okay, so we'll plan to restore that funding in a special.
Temporarily, hopefully.
Yeah, Mark, we did go round and round and round, so I can, you know, I can certainly see that it might have, because I'm trying, I have my notes that we decided to keep it, but who knows, right? Who knows what we, so, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. So I'm going to do this in 3 sections here, just to not throw too much information at you all at once. But what we were originally asked to do was present a fiscal 25 full year salary look at these 5 new positions. And of course, since that request, we've scaled that back, but we're presenting that information to you tonight regardless, just so you have it. So if you were to fund the 5 positions this year, the total amount would be $197,416 in salaries. Those are half-year salaries or partial year salaries, I should say. And then the full year impact to fiscal 25 would be $351,000. So down below that, just to give you some perspective, that's about 10 cents on the tax rate. And that would hit everybody's or the median tax bill, I should say, by $42.40 a year.
It would go up, is what you're saying, Mark, 42.40?
$42.40 a year.
Correct. Oh,
Right,
no.
right.
But
So
that was assuming all 5 positions. am I not-
that's, yeah, again, we just wanted to provide this information because we were asked to, but of course, since we last were meeting, that proposal has changed. So moving down here, the second proposal here is what we're actually proposing, which is the additional 2.5 positions. So you can see that impact for fiscal 24, since it's a partial year, is $118,916. And the fiscal 25 full year salary impact is about $189,000. And that is about a 4-cent impact on the average tax bill, on the tax rate. And then the median tax bill impact is about $16.86 per year.
And Mark, the numbers you are showing here, they include the full benefits cost? Or this is strictly salary here?
This is salaries. The insurance is in a different line.
Okay, so you have it somewhere, you have incorporated the prorated impact there.
Correct. So the impact summary at the bottom is basically the difference between these two. So by going with the 2.5 rather than the 4.5 positions, the difference between those two is about $78,500, 6 cents on the tax rate, and the estimated median tax bill is impacted by, or the difference is $25.53 a year. So I know that's a lot of information in one slide, but I just wanted to touch on this real quickly, and I can go back if you need more time with that other slide. Here, I just wanted to point out the impacts I mentioned earlier, and that's this number right here, this 4.9%. That's down under this new proposed budget from 6.1%. This 3.7 right here is down from 4%. And then you can see right here, we've increased this free cash from 4.1 to 4,325,000. And then scrolling down to the next page, right here is where you're seeing the tax rate impact. That's a reduction from $14.99 to a proposed $14.55. And I still feel that this is incredibly conservative, even with this reduction.
How do you mean conservative?
Thank you.
What I mean is that we always predict a much higher tax rate than we actually land on at our tax classification hearing. I think last year we estimated it to be in the 1524 range, and it ended up being 1407. So that of course was due to the substantial increase in values. But again, I think we're going to see another substantial increase in values this year as well. So.
Yeah, but what you are really saying is that the tax bill, whether it comes from the, mill rate or the assessed value, will still hit people the same. You know what I mean? It's just like how you
Absolutely.
arrive at the number. Yeah.
Correct, right. This is just our best guess at this time.
Yeah.
Mark, just correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing that would change that would be substantial growth.
Correct.
That would split out.
Right,
Kind of
yeah.
smooth out, so, and we never quite know what the growth's gonna be until we see the numbers.
Can I just-
And go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm glad you have this page, because I was trying to clarify. So fiscal year 22, we estimated the tax rate to be 16.22, and then it went down. The actual rate is 14.86. But for fiscal year 23, we estimated 14.07, and the actual tax rate is 14.07. Did we estimate right on target, or we don't have the actuals yet?
FY23 hasn't closed yet. So I
No,
think-
yet.
don't have all the information.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, wow, talk about accurate predicting.
So last year at this time, we were predicting that the tax rate would be 1544. And you could see in fiscal 23, it was actually 1407. And that's why I use the term conservative, because I think the 1455 is still conservative. I don't think we're going to come even close to that. We just.
And Mark, just to basically follow on with Steve's point, that's because you're assuming the assessed valuation is the same as last year, right?
Right. If you look up here in this top line, we've level funded the total assessed values of the town. Again, to be conservative.
When you're saying conservative, Mark, on the 1455, you mean on the high end or low end conservative?
Meaning that would be on the high end.
Thank you.
So again, Garfield, just to kind of look back at last year, we were predicting over $15 for the tax rate, and it ended up landing at 1407
Wonderful.
due to the values.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I would, the focus on the mill rate really is very confusing, because everyone,
Exactly.
I think mostly
exactly.
everyone knows their bills went up, so it's
Yeah,
a little bit of a.
because you have to really look
misleading,
at the assessed value there. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, to give people the full picture. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to scroll
Marcus.
back.
Yeah, is this everything? So what I'm gonna look for now is kind of closure on the reductions. Just so we can say, that we agree with the reductions, and it's a recommendation for the public hearing, because we need to have these figures for the public hearing. Rich, go ahead.
My concern is that we had public works and highways and parks here for an inordinate amount of time. And the amount of work that had been put off and not yet done. And I know I applaud you for having gone through everything and tried to make the best cuts you could at our request. But I'm wondering if that position are we going to be able to fulfill the services that we're hoping to fulfill in the town without bumping up that department? That's my question to you, Mark.
Can I just ask for clarification? I'm assuming you're referring to the assistant DPW position.
I am.
Yeah.
I am, and I'm wondering if we're just kicking the bucket down the road and we're going to not do what we need for the buildings in town, and there's going to be, again, not enough people scrambling, just doing the bare minimum again for another year. I'm just asking if that's what we're looking forward to if we accept this reduction.
I hope not. Ideally, I would love to see all 5 positions funded.
I I understand, I appreciate the desire to cut somewhere, and I mean, I would love all positions to be funded as well, but I understand trying to prioritize. I'm just suggesting that we might want to fund one more position. I'm not making a motion yet, but I'm just asking, does anybody else have that feeling that I have, that we're just going to be not providing the services the town needs without that?
So we have a couple hands up, Rich, so maybe we'll get your answer. Ed and then Bill.
Yeah, is anyone else having trouble answering that question without knowing how many dollars it will cost? I think the number now for the whole 167 is somewhere in the high 30, like $36, $37. We will be saving the median taxpayer, right? So if we're just talking about another $7 to fund the median taxpayer to fund this position, it's a much easier question to answer. I
It's
don't
not
know.
easier for me, I'll go to Phil, but let me just interject. It's not easier for me because $7 here, $7 there, and all of a sudden we're back with 160,000.
Yep.
I understand Rich's point.
Yep.
And
I'm
I
asking the whole 160, what are we saving? If we're really talking about cutting things that the town manager thought we needed to save $38 for the median taxpayer, is that worth it? I mean, like the postage number, either we're going to spend the postage or we're not going to spend the postage. So that's really just a question of what's in free cash next year. We're not mailing stuff just for fun.
Well, yeah, I guess just bigger picture, the more our budget increase looks more like a 4% increase than a 6% increase makes me feel better.
I agree.
That's sort of my high level view. What I would say is a question for Allison and Mark is to what extent would the additional staff member in the finance office provide support to what DPW is doing with all the new projects that Milena was referring to? I think Joe was referring to, a fair amount of just a fair amount of work to get all those contractors paid and all the work that relates around that. So if we're taking away the assistant superintendent, is the new staff member and Allison going to help out at all?
Any thoughts on that, Ally?
Well, I've been helping the DPW assistant with her capital projects and helping her plan those out along with Chris. You're kind of comparing apples to oranges here.
No, I agree. I don't want to put you on the spot. Just that, I guess the way I would look at it is we need to provide Joe with a little more support given the increase in the number of projects going on. And so, we could give him an assistant in his office, or if your office was more amply staffed, then again, theoretically, from a distance, not being in your office and not actually doing the work like you are, it might be reasonable to believe he would be getting some more support in that regard. But that was my point.
And
I have a question myself.
No, we got hands up, Garfield first.
Okay.
And go ahead, then Garfield, then Rich.
Yeah, I just want to dovetail on what I heard somebody else say, I think, Phil, which is that I think anything we can do to sort of reduce the tax increase to residents this year. I mean, it's a tough year for a lot of people in terms of finances, including us looking at our budget. And I also will say, anything that we can do to keep it as close to what the cost of living increases have been estimated to be, I think we should try, because, I think we all know that people are really struggling to sort of deal with the high tax rate in Great Barrington. So anything we can do to manage it and keep offering services. I understand I know Mark came with us with these additional positions because there is a need, but at some point we have to try to sort of manage the tax rate.
So perhaps we need to trust Mark in his assessment of the reduction.
To me, that's the right way of doing it, Rich, but that's just me. Garfield, go right ahead.
Pretty much, I was saying, I think the $38 that we're speaking of that if I may, Ed might have sounded like that might not be anything to write home about. I think $38 is a pretty decent savings. I'd like to keep it where it is. And I'm wondering now that we're speaking about saving this money, and now are we starting to go, oh, gee, maybe we shouldn't do that. I think we should stick with what Mark has said, and with the 167,000 plus is nice. I don't think we should walk it back at this point.
So do I have a motion for the, anybody else get their hands up, Rich and Bill, are your hands still up?
No, my hand should be down. Yeah.
Okay. So from the select board, can I have a motion on that? Mark, what's the exact number? It's
167,244.
That's correct.
I
224.
make
224.
okay, I make a motion to accept the town manager's recommendation of a reduction of $167,244 from the fiscal
It's
24.
not 224?
I
224.
think that's right. Yeah,
Go ahead.
I thought you said 44.
no, 224.
224.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a second and I have a motion. Discussion.
Can I just say that you're changing that from 167,224 to 160,224 because you added in 7,000 for the co-responder.
Okay, thank you. So
Okay, 160. Yeah, so I'll take back what I had just recommended and change that number to accepting the town manager's recommendation of reducing it by $160,224.
And do I have a second on that?
Second.
And by the way, this is the reason we don't do this on the day of the town of the public hearing. Because numbers do get mixed up. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, just
Roll
that,
call. Yeah, go ahead.
just that I think it's a mistake to nickel and dime it down. I don't think it helps individuals enough to do the cuts from what Mark thought was a reasonable budget. That's all.
Thank you, Ed. Roll call vote, Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
No.
Lee.
Aye.
And I, it passes 4-1.
Hey, Mark, Mark or Allison, could you just put that one page back on the screen, the aggregate budget projection number where you have the all-in net number?
Mhm.
Well, again, while it's going up, I just want to comment to remind everyone that we are putting 150 back in because we're holding that in case the Senate does not approve the Housatonic water funding. So
Yes.
we're back into the special articles. So,
So can you scroll down, Mark?
Are you reducing the 325,000 that we use free cash to reduce the tax levy?
Yeah,
Because
temporarily we are, Ellen.
so all of these numbers between the
No,
7,
exactly, I know.
Yes, exactly. These numbers are,
So I think
Okay.
we're voting on the town operating budget, but not this, but we're not doing anything with the special articles. Except our.
correct. And all of these, none of the votes are sealed in stone until after the public hearing.
Correct.
And can you scroll down, Mark?
Yeah, which slide would you like?
The one with the green and yellow, the last one, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Okay.
But Phil, remember, things are gonna change because we've put 150 back into the special articles.
Right, I understand, but in a perfect world, that will eventually be zero at some point. Okay, all right, so the town budget, I know this is a little bit off, Ally. I hear you loud and clear, but the town budget based on these numbers is up 4.9%.
correct. It'll be up a little now that we added 7,000 back in.
Right, and with respect to the Housatonic backstop, I'll call it, this is ultimately where we believe we will end up. Okay, all right, thank you.
Add the 150,000 back in for the Housatonic. Then the line
No.
that says special will increase by 150, and the free cash to reduce levy would be 150.
Okay, no,
There-
understood. Okay, do we have a motion on the?
I have
floor?
a question, because I'm not great at math and finances. All the stuff that you said, just now, Ally, and when we get to the budget, we do take out the 150. Does that reverse back to what we originally said with that money's out?
I
Does that
think,
make sense?
If you,
Within $7,000, but yes, that's correct.
yeah, it would just 7,000, that would change. So it would just very minutely change the town budget, operating budget. So it would probably go up from 4.9 to 5%. And then that would increase the tax levy. So that would change that dollar amount as far as what the estimated tax rate is and the estimated tax bill on the median value.
Can I take one last stab at clarifying what I think is Garfield's question and maybe Ann's question? Those numbers reflect that where the town is not funding that additional 150 for Housatonic water remediation.
Correct.
In my view, that's where I think that we will ultimately end up when Boston does the right thing. But we're going to put it back in. It'll make our budget look larger, but that's hopefully a temporary thing.
Right, that's pretty much what I'm asking. Is that a temporary?
Right. Hopefully that made sense. Yeah.
That made sense to me.
All right. On the finance committee side, do we have a motion?
can I say the same motion as the select board motion? Okay,
Yeah.
same
I would
motion as the select board.
And do we have a second?
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Anne?
Aye.
Milena?
Aye.
Madonna?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well.
Okay, so I believe, unless there's things out there I'm not aware of that we've concluded for this evening, other than citizen speak and media time, but I will let the two boards tell me if I'm wrong.
I have one last, I have another nit question here. Allison, on that page that we were just looking at, that I had you pull up, can you clarify what capital items non-borrowing represents? It's, I'm looking at fiscal 24 capital items non-borrowing.
So those would be, let's see, and
And maybe more generally, I'm asking how it ties into what we see on, I guess, that tab 7 first page.
so those are projects that we anticipate not borrowing for. So for example, street improvements covered by chapter 90. Anything that,
Ally, do you want me to share my screen? Yeah, I can share my screen. I have it up.
okay. Okay,
Right, so just for context, I was trying to understand that that number in the if you scroll down a bit, Ann. So that non-borrowing number, if I'm reading this right, I was trying to understand it in relative to that 1,972,000 number. And, if you want to come back to me on that, that's okay too.
I guess I would have to get back to you, on, but I believe it has to do with other plans of paying for those rather than borrowing.
Okay, yeah, so I don't want to put you on the spot on that one, but I just wanted to just understand how that number relates to this page.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Not hearing anyone.
Yeah.
Sid?
Yeah, sorry. Would it be possible to get the updated numbers at some point?
Yeah, you'll get it before the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Citizen speak. Media time. By unanimous consent, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
you.
Man.